Jaz, welcome.
Hello.
It's lovely to sit opposite
I
you.
know, it's great to see you.
How's things?
Good. Things are good.
You are a busy bee.
Well, busy but not harassed is what I like to say. You know, I have 3 kids and I work and I like to see my husband now and again, so busy is my baseline, really.
And a book.
And a book, yes. And that's kind of, you know, it's sort of everything I do, because I thought it would be an additional thing, but actually the book is about saying my thoughts behind everything I do in literacy and in resilience. So it is kind of just part and parcel of what I'm doing anyway.
What's it called?
Well,
Are we allowed to know?
I'm making it up as I go along, so I don't know. But currently it's called Why First Teaching, in kind of honour of the great Simon Sinek, and this idea that when we get real clarity around why and what our why is, then everything we do from that, how we do it and what we do eventually, really stems from the core of what we're trying to achieve, as opposed to getting lost and then getting on automatic and just doing things without thinking. And that's whether it's planning a literacy lesson or planning your journey into leadership, or just in life, I think, as well, I'm finding.
Or as a nation.
As a nation, yes.
About our education system.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole question there is, what's it for? What's school for? And I'm not trying to get deep about anything. It's just that we can't keep going on blindly saying, well, you know, we do this, then we do these exams and we churn them out and then we're kind of finished and let's hope it all turns out okay. Because those children that aren't served become adults that aren't complete, and then they have to go on and make decisions that will affect us all. So for me, it's just, this is a joint idea that we've got to invest in. Whether I've got 3 children, I want to invest in it for their future, but also just because decisions need to be made and you can't make them as a reactive. They need to be made because you've really thought through, where are we going, what's our vision? And you can change your path to that, but you've got to stay focused on what you're actually looking for.
We did a teach meet together, and I remember listening to you talk about your life, your journey.
Do you know what was crazy about that is
It wasn't linear, was it?
No, it was more like that.
That wasn't a kind of straight line.
When is it ever? But I wasn't going to do that. I had a great talk planned on marking and expectation, had a great anecdote about Usain Bolt's coach, which I'm desperate to use. And it was Connor Heaven. He was talking about, you know, why and what are we doing for our children, what's important to us. And I remember sitting there thinking, what if I just told the truth? What if I just stood up and said, I just need to tell you, you don't often hear from people who are these statistics that you talk about, these broken children, these free school meals or whatever tag you put on us. You don't often see them standing up together, looking middle class and having a successful life. So let me show you what it looks like. And you know, all it took was 5 teachers. I worked it out. There's literally 5 teachers in my educational life who, rather than just doing all the great stuff that they're supposed to do, all the academic stuff, they actually stepped out of the mold. They stood with me in this chaotic life. And those 5 people, they're the reason I'm not dead. I
love that. They're the reason you're not dead.
No, they are. Because I was this close to drugs, prostitution, a life in the criminal world. I mean, I lived in it. I lived in it as a child. But my choices were different because other people gave me a different perspective. Because teachers said, there's another reality. It doesn't have to be like this.
And you did talk about people standing with you.
You know, when we talk about free school meals, talk about children, you know, and we try and find a polite way of saying the poor kids, and we do all of this, and sometimes I think, you know, the one word that sums it all up is chaos. When you're going home at night and there's no food, and you are in charge of your 4 brothers and sisters at 9 years old, and you are in fear of your life because you could get beaten up any minute by your own parents, and it's not safe in the house and it's not safe on the streets, and somehow I've got to survive till the next morning and then get myself up, sort the kids out and get them and me to school. And then I get there and people say, shall we do some maths? And I'm like, yeah, we could, but shall we do something that actually has an effect on my life? And there was just this massive mismatch.
Should we do Weetabix first?
Sure, yeah, have you got any biscuits? That was my first question. But there was just this massive mismatch, I think, in terms of what school was trying to say and what I needed. And what I actually needed was someone to just say, you know, how are you today? How are you getting on now?
Can you remember them vividly, those 5?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, I can. Mrs. Cook. She was in the infants, and I was in the same class as my brother, so I think I must have been year 2. But she would look for things that I did right, and it was quite difficult, and then she would talk about them in 2 other adults in front of me. She'd say, have you seen that was incredible. I was really interested in this, I was looking, and then suddenly she came up with that idea, and I was just like,
praise.
Yeah, that was incredible. And it wasn't that I didn't get that, because at that time I was living with my grandparents. It wasn't that I didn't get that, but again, at home, there was an enormous fear the whole time. Adults can't be trusted. I know this from experience. Adults lie. Adults are going to hurt you. So I wasn't prepared to even open the door. And then when you see someone just being there, they're not trying to get anything from you. They're just there, and even when I talk about this, I think people are going to think this sounds odd because that's just what life's like if you've got parents and they care about you. It certainly is what it's like for my kids. My kids are the kids I used to pick on in school. I've turned my kids into these lovely, namby-pamby middle-class kids.
We've got one having a little sing.
He's having a great time.
He's having a little sing in the background. We don't mind that, do we?
Happy as Larry. No, and I'm glad, and they don't know what they don't know, so I'm pleased about it. Mrs. Cook. And I went back to see her, and she was quite old, because obviously, I'm not young. And I don't think she really remembered me. And I sort of tried to say, it's when I was 18 and I hadn't been pregnant, I hadn't dropped out of education yet. And but I hadn't yet got a place at college, I hadn't got a place at teaching ground. But I went back to see her to say thank you. And she sort of remembered me, but she was so education had changed. She was so in the midst of just kids causing havoc and just mayhem. And she was very focused still on just making sure that she had relationships with individuals. That was still her thing. And it was almost like she couldn't give a toss what the curriculum said because she knew what a job was, and it was to form relationships. So that's what she did.
We ran this thing last October called Thank a Teacher.
Oh, right.
Hashtag Thank a Teacher. And the reception was incredible.
See, people remember, don't they?
What
People
about the other
remember.
four? What about the other four?
Well, skipping to kind of secondary school. Junior school, Mr. Williams. He was Welsh, up the Welsh. Yep. So he was amazing. He was a supply teacher. He wasn't our regular teacher. And I was coming in, day after day and disrupting the class because that was my power, to cause havoc and mayhem. It kind of still is now. So I would do that. And he would bellow and his moustache would dance. And I'm like, mate, is that what you've got? Is that it? Because you've got nothing on my parents, so go for it. So there's a classic one. But what he did do is he did talk to me. He'd praise me and he'd come over and say, I like what you've done. It wasn't what you were supposed to do, but you did it.
But I liked it.
It was good. And then I remember one day I went in, we were always beaten, we had bruises everywhere, but we were always clothed up. We had clothes. And this one day, clothes were sparse because they were given to us or from hospitals or charity shops, and I didn't have a long sleeve top. So I went in, I kept my coat on as long as possible, but I had bruises where I'd been grabbed and pulled all up my arm. And what I was also hiding was a bruise on my eye from a black eye. And Mr. Williams said, what happened to you? And I said, I fell down the stairs. What happened to you? It's just sort of very, which is what I was supposed to say. I did what I was supposed to do. And he said, I'm going to stay here all day. And if you want to come and talk to me, then that's fine. And if you want me to say nothing about it to anyone else, then that's fine. But my job is to look out for you. I think you're protecting someone, but my job is to protect you. And no one had ever talked about protecting me before.
What did you do? I
went to see him at break. And I said, my stepdad did it. And he was outraged and he didn't say a word, but his moustache went wild. And this is amazing time. Do you know what he did? He went, go get your brother. And my brother's 2 classes down. So I went to pick him up and he put us in the library. I was 8 years old, I'll never forget this. He put us in the library and he shut the door on the library and he stood outside with a rounder's bat in his hand. I don't know what he thought he was going to do with it, but he stood outside with this rounder's bat. And then eventually a woman came along in a skirt that was the wrong shade of brown, so I knew she was a social worker. And she took us away, and that was the first time we went into care. And I remember in that library with him outside with my brother, who was crying because he was younger than me and he was scared. And I think what in Mr. Williams' mind, it was, your parents are not taking you tonight, that I'm staying here, they're not taking you. God knows what trouble he got in for that. But that was the first time in my life I ever felt safe. I was in that room and he was outside and he promised to protect me and he had a rounder's bat. Bring it. That was the first time I'd ever felt safe in my life. He's changed my life. He changed my life. Care was a hideous experience. Foster care was awful. And even though I disclosed stuff and they kept taking us back and it just got worse. But that was the first moment when it was something other than the regular fire of chaos that I went back to every night.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams. And do you know what? I punched and kicked him. I hurt him proper.
Okay. Because
it was always about you. He was giving me disconfirming data. He was telling me that I'm okay and that I can, and I know that I'm cheap and I'm dirty and guilty and useless and worthless. So and I know that, I own that. So when you come up against that, it's not going to be, oh, great, thanks. Oh, I'll take a lifestyle change.
But now, look, you're honouring those educators. We should do this as a nation, though. We should be honouring our educators.
You know, I think people have short memories and people don't remember
how we got here.
Yeah, this journey that we've been on. And actually everything I'm doing is just recognising that. But to do that, you have to really garner what you think and feel rather than what you say and do. We live in a world of we say the right thing, we do the right thing. you know, we do what we think Ofsted's going to want, or we do what we think is acceptable. But actually what you think and feel, that's what other people have embedded in you. And that's what, when you really get in touch with that, that's living an authentic life. It's also living a vulnerable life. And vulnerability is frightening, which is why people don't choose it. But for me, it is about, you know, recognising that. That's why I stood up at TM London and said, I have to tell you something, and I just...
So you actually literally changed your talk?
I ran up to the top at half time and went, can I change my PowerPoints? And they were like, also, I didn't know anyone there. I'd never even heard of Teach Meets. I've been to one before, didn't know what it was. Ross had never heard of me. You know, none of these people. And I thought, I haven't got to see these people again. They're no marks. I don't know who they are. I'll do this. I'll go. It'll be all fine. Forgot it was being videoed. I didn't realise quite important people would see it. So it's all been a bit of a whirlwind. But it's still a choice. Even today, you know, I wake up in the morning and I choose to live the life that I've been gifted by these teachers. And I don't always choose it first thing in the morning. It might be 11 o'clock.
I might choose a cup of tea
I might choose to have a scream at the kids first. I choose lots of things. But it is a choice, and it is in honour. And it sounds very namby-pamby, but I would not be alive. So what do you do with that? What do you do with that?
You do what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess you do. Yeah.
You do what you're doing, which is, and we should do it more as a nation. We should be an education nation. We should be honouring
and living that brand. That's because we can talk about it. But my big question in the book is, can you teach resilience if you're not exhibiting resilience? I mean, really, if you're, all right, we're not hot emotional messes in front of the kids, but if you're not showing, this is what I do and I don't know what to do. If you're not making those authentic mistakes and sharing it with them, because our immediate reaction when we make a mistake is to try and cover it up, and it's an amazing learning opportunity.
The mistake?
Yeah, to show the children, like for year sixers, to show them what you do when it all goes wrong, what do you do when you don't know what to do, and how you communicate that to other people. And without that skill, what long division is going to do what? I mean, we've got smartphones. I can do that on my watch. I'm not dissing math, kind of am. No. But I am saying that these skills are really important and need to be acknowledged and honoured. And we're equipped as adults who want to advocate for learners and change the world, which is what everyone starts teaching as. We're equipped to be able to do that. But it gets buried under, curriculum and facts and stats. And actually, we're better than that. Teachers are better than that. And it is this whole idea of a nation. You know, with English, we should be world leaders. It's called English, for crying out loud. We shouldn't be trailing behind everyone else. It should be something that we are passionately advocating as being the centre for what we do, including speaking and listening, not shoving that with drama and forgetting about it.
You've got a wish for the system?
If I've got one wish for the system...
Education Britain. Which is bigger than just England.
Yes, it is.
Education Britain, have you got a wish for...
You know what my wish is? Is that people fail more often. It really is. I want failure ninjas for teachers. I want failure to be like that dance move that you brush off your shoulder, because we're scared of getting it wrong. We're scared of Ofsted slagging us off and ripping us a new one. So we do stuff that we think will make it okay. And I'm saying it's time for change. It's time to say thank you for training me and entrusting me. Luckily for you, I've got a lot of common sense as a human being, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that's not working. Now, here's a solution. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if anyone's ever been there. I've no idea what the journey's like. Let's go anyway.
Let's give it a go.
Yeah, and when we fail, we realise we failed and we get up and we make a new plan. But that's what I want. My wish is for more failure. I don't want to see perfect work on the wall. I want to see the progress. I want to see process. I want to see people taking risks, trying things out, being more reflective about their own practice. That's kind of what I'm on a mission to do.
That's a good wish.
Do you know what though? I'm being a rabble rouser. I got on one of my reports, it said, Jaz is a serial interrupter, which I took as a compliment. It's not. But I kind of feel like and I'm not meaning to, but my vision is very clear about a system that transforms lives. And it's not just the poor kids, it's everybody.
That'll do.
Yeah,
those
it's
five
not a
teachers.
bad vision.
Those 5 teachers, we honour them.
Yes. I can't, because I get emotional every time I talk about it. They don't know, they don't all know who they are. But Mr. Simpson was another one in secondary school. So Gilly.
Mrs. Cook,
Mr.
Cook, Williams.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Simpson, Gilly. We didn't call her by her teacher name. And there's one at Teacher Training College, but I haven't spoken to them yet, and they're still there, so I want to speak to them first. But it's literally those 5 that they gave me everything I have.
And can I say to your little one?
You can.
Thank you for letting us borrow your mummy for a little bit
He got 6 minutes on my phone. That's like gold dust. So he got to play Minecraft for 6 minutes. He is already winning. This is a good thing.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely lovely chat.
Thank you.
And thank you.